Hello everyone, my name is Kirsten. So for today alone, I thought I would be explaining a little bit briefly about my little college experience. I thought this would be a really fun, interesting video to do, simply because I've watched a few videos in particular about a certain type of level of schooling experience, you could say. I thought it would be really interesting if I talked a little bit about my college experience. So if you would like to see more of these in the future, be sure to leave a like. If you would really love to see more of my videos in the future, if you're new here and if you would love to see more of my videos in the future, please do consider subscribing to my channel. I upload new videos every single weekend. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Before I graduated from high school, I made a plan to go to a community college. I figured I'd start somewhere a little bit small. I knew what I wanted to do with my life, I just didn't know how to get there. So as soon as I graduated from high school, that's when I started my freshman year of college. Being in college, I realized that the whole experience and the whole feel of it was so much more different compared to high school. Definitely, for sure. The college I went to had lots of trees and it was just a very pretty college generally. When I started college, I believe it was around August of 2011. So that was the day I actually went ahead and start with my college experience. Again, being in college, the whole feel, the whole experience of it, the whole atmosphere was basically pretty much different compared to high school. Maybe it's because college is more of a choice after you graduate from high school, which is really great, to be honest, because occasionally you'll bump into like a few of your classmates that will tend to be disrespectful in high school and just tend to fool around and that kind of thing, get into lots of trouble. With college, it's not quite as extreme as how high school was, definitely, for sure. I mean, sure, occasionally you'll run into disrespectful students at some point, but it's almost very rare at this point. So it's one thing to keep in mind if you're heading into college. A majority of the people that I've met were actually really nice compared to people in high school. Everything isn't based on labels or where you hang out with. You're not gone all day. So that was also something I got a pretty good feel of the moment I started college. And the whole learning experience with the classes generally was even a lot more different. I felt like I didn't learn shit until I started attending college. I learned a lot more compared to any other school that I've been to, which is sad to say, but it's actually really true. Now, don't get me wrong, you're learning something, but with college, it's technically a really different learning experience, I think. Now, just being in college generally, I feel like I could just open up myself a little bit more because of this whole college experience. When I was in high school, I was a very shy girl, believe it or not. I know, as much as how talkative I am in front of the camera, I am surprisingly really shy, which is true. I did have friends back in high school. I got along with almost everyone okay. But for the most part, I was pretty much a loner. There were days where I hung out with friends, but most of the time I was pretty much alone for the most part. Because if you think about it, once you graduate from high school, you're not gonna technically hang out with those people again or see them again. A lot of changes are basically going to happen once you graduate from high school, so do keep in mind if you're a young viewer watching this video right now. I think after high school it does get better and you get to learn to be a little bit more outgoing and talk to people a little bit more. At least in my experience, I definitely learned to open up a little bit better. Even though I was still pretty much the shyest person in class and didn't really say much. When I first began college, I didn't know what kind of classes to take. I didn't know what degree I wanted to take. I do remember, or I do recall, starting out with, I took a cardio class, English class, and I also took an art class. I'm one of those type of people that do not like to rush into anything, so for me it was best that I started somewhere pretty small. Later on, as time went on, I started to really think about what I wanted to do with my life and what degree I wanted to pursue. So in this case, I decided to go for my studio arts degree. With any artsy related degrees that you want to apply for, especially if you're in a community college, you have to do some general education on the side. I had to not only try to pursue classes related to the degree I really want to do, but I also had to take general education as well. For a community college, I have spent 6 years just to get my AA degree, which is pretty embarrassing to say out loud. But again, I just didn't feel comfortable rushing in and trying to move into a university just yet. When I was in college, I had this idea that I wanted to transfer into a university, at least someplace closer to where I live, because I just didn't want to travel too far just to go to college. Like, I didn't plan to go out of state or anything like that. I just planned to basically go into college within my state. I had a plan to transfer into San Jose State, but with all this thinking and all this other stuff I had planned of what I wanted to do after I graduated from a community college, I basically changed my mind about that before I graduated from college ultimately. Ever since high school, I always knew I was more of a multi-talented type of person, you could say. I'm pretty good with creative writing. I'm also very good with theater-related stuff, and I was also pretty good with art. At least about average with art, I do think so. So that was part of the reason why I decided to get my studio arts degree, because I wanted to do something a little bit artsy and a little bit creative. Now, I know some people are probably gonna say something along the lines of like how pursuing an art degree is a complete waste of your time. And as long as you're dedicating the time to pursue some form of degree, it is not a complete waste of your time. Just saying. But with that being said, since I had to take general education, I had to take everything from like English and history and math, all that other type of stuff, science, definitely. Now, outside of artsy related stuff, I do have a few subjects in mind that I really do enjoy. Of course, I enjoyed all of my art classes that I took. I was pretty much excited to take each and every single one. Everything from designing and fine arts and art history, definitely. It's really fun to learn about different forms of art and how they came to be and who made them and why it happened the way it did, what's the meaning behind it. Art history was definitely very fun. I enjoyed English mostly because of the whole reading and writing thing, but the only issue I had with English classes is teachers being very strict about how you're supposed to have your paper structurized, or how a subject is supposed to be. I find that kind of irritating, but other than that, I really do enjoy reading and writing very much. I took a creative writing class and I thought that was really fun. I enjoyed learning a little bit about history. I had to take a few history classes just so I could get my general education out of the way. So I took Intro to Government and I took a history class. It was really interesting to learn about. There wasn't too many science classes that I joined. The only science class that I took that I really enjoyed very much was marine biology. I love being able to learn about everything about ocean life and its natural habitats, but it's almost like it's different forms of science mashed into one particular subject, which is very interesting because not only are you learning about ocean life, you're also learning about the meteorology of it, you're also learning about physics, ecology, zoology, all this other type of stuff. I find that to be very interesting, and it's my favorite subject, and I thought it was really cool that I took 3 field trips in that class as well, so it was very fun. Another class that I took that I also enjoyed was communication. Now, with a communication class, I really enjoyed being a part of that class because you get to learn a little bit about people and how human beings interact with relationships. At least that's what I learned just being in a communication class generally. It was very fun. I also had a chance to take a theater appreciation class, which technically wasn't counted for my general education or nothing like that. When I finished all of my general education, including my degree, I had to wait a full semester for me to graduate for some weird reason. That's the reason why I took that class. What really struck my interest with this whole theater class was that you're learning about production and directing. Directing was something that really struck my interest. So that's when I decided to take that class, and I'm not gonna lie, if I do decide to go back to college or a community college, I wouldn't mind if I pursued my degree in theater, because theater and art are something I just really love. So if you were to ask me what were my least favorite or my most hated subjects in college, there wasn't too many subjects that I absolutely hate or despise. But if you were to ask me a particular subject that I absolutely hate no matter what, was definitely math. I am not a huge fan of math. With algebra and basic math, I pretty much did okay in. The moment I took statistics, which was my final class, by the way, I felt like it was a really tough final boss battle. Oh my god, statistics. Well, the only thing I can say is I definitely was probably one of my most hated, absolute hated math subjects of all time. If you were to throw me in that Unbroken movie, or if you were to throw me in that Descent horror film, then you can pretty much know what type of hell I actually went through. Just saying. It was just terrible because not only did I understood the subject, but my statistics teacher was also Indian, and I feel like it was hard for me to understand exactly what he was saying because he had a pretty heavy accent. But for some weird unknown reason, I ended up passing the class okay, so I'm pretty happy about that. I mean, I passed it with a solid C at best, but hey, at least it's better than a D or an F, so that's a positive note to think about. Another class that I didn't really care too much for was surprisingly from one of my art classes, to be honest. Now, I love all of my art classes, but the only issue I had with one art class in particular is my three-dimensional class. I loved creating the work in there, but I feel like it was just really risky projects for one thing. It feels like it was almost like it's construction work with all the work that is put into this class, you could say. Equipment in there was a little bit too risky to deal with, especially if you had to use like grinders or like blow torches. It was just kind of overwhelming during that time, I'm not gonna lie. It really was. Well, other than that, There's not too many other subjects that I didn't really care for or liked. I enjoyed almost every single class that I attended. Now, in terms of the teachers that I've encountered, I didn't have very many teachers that I didn't like or didn't have much of an issue with, but some teachers I've experienced were just either kind of difficult to work with, or sometimes I just didn't like the teacher because of the whole classroom. But very rarely the whole entire time I've been into college, I have not experienced that many issues with teachers. That's always a plus. So the whole entire time that I was in college, I basically took 2 classes, or maybe 3 at the maximum, simply because I didn't want to overwhelm myself with so many classes all at once, because I know people will have a tendency to do that just so they could move on to a university or whatever. But in my case, again, I just didn't feel like rushing into anything, which is exactly the reason why it took me 6 years just to graduate. Just taking 3 classes was just something that was completely overwhelming. The beginning part of college was definitely pretty tough because of the homework and all the hard work that goes into some of these classes you have to attend. Some classes will provide you with so much homework it's almost too ridiculous or overwhelming at this point. Preparing for finals is probably even worse on top of it, or trying to study for like a quiz or just a test. Those were the type of things I found pretty much overwhelming if I was struggling in a class or something along those lines. Somehow I managed to pull through just fine. So even though I was under so much stress and so much pressure, I managed to get through them just fine. But in the end, all of that hard work will definitely be worth it, especially once you start graduating. I've also had a chance to meet very lovely people and actually became really good friends with some of these people I've met in college. Some of them I have already met in high school. Those people were really interesting to know or hang out with. Besides the fact of being overwhelmed with like homework and just certain types of classes generally, it was a very fun experience for me. If there's something you would really love to know with my whole college experience, be sure to leave it in the comments down below and maybe we could have a chat of some kind. That's pretty much all I really wanted to say. I hope you guys find this somewhat entertaining or kind of interesting. So if you did, be sure to sucker punch that like button down below. And of course, if you're new here and if you haven't already, please do dedicate the time and effort to subscribe to my lovely channel, join my little army of darkness, and if you hit that notification button, you will be updated with brand new videos every single Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. If you guys are interested in following me outside of YouTube, all of my social medias will be listed in the description box right down below if you are indeed interested in checking them out yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a completely chill week, an awesome day or night, and I will talk to you all soon in the next video. So until then, stay completely dark and so fucking brutal and awesome, my friends. Take care. Bye for now.